Hi, everyone. Laura Haviland here today to talk to you about an introduction to parenting coordination and how parenting coordination is an alternative dispute resolution process that may be something that helps you and your family or someone you love reduce conflict experienced by children of separation and divorce. So, here today, I want to share with you just an intro with respect to the process. So a lot of folks don't know what parent coordination is. They've heard of mediation, but they're not quite sure what the difference is. So the biggest thing, if you walk away with today, understanding the difference between parent coordination and mediation, is that parent coordinators are not confidential and mediators are confidential. I'm here showing on the screen my parent coordination model called the problem solving parent coordination model, the PCPC. It's a structured intervention that reduces children's prolonged exposure to trauma or toxic stress from parental conflict. So, how do you even begin working with a parent coordinator? Well, first and foremost, if you're meeting with a family law attorney, your attorney right here can potentially introduce to you options that are alternative to litigating a family law divorce or custody case. And so they could share with you, hey, there's this out of court option, or even a court or judge could appoint a parent coordinator. And the parent coordinator meets with the parents, helps them with various issues that cause conflict. And it's something whereby it's quite a bit cheaper because the parents are dividing the cost of a parent coordinator rather than each paying their own legal fees. And so it's something that you could be exposed to in your initial consult with your own divorce or custody lawyer. Secondly, if you are already in litigation in the court system, the court could potentially, depending on your jurisdiction, appoint a parent coordinator. Now, in some jurisdictions, such as Maryland or Florida, the court would first have notice in a hearing. So maybe at your first scheduling conference or your first settlement conference, a judge could say, hey, I really think you guys have some serious conflict, that you're really not going to want to go to trial and expose all of your family issues. Why don't you work with a court-appointed parent coordinator? And the parents can either do so by consent, or in some jurisdictions, a court can require them to attend a certain number of sessions before having to go to a trial. And then another way is just simply out of court. Nobody's in litigation, but maybe you're working with a therapist, or your child's psychologist says, hey, a lot of the child's issues are really the parents' issues and the parents experiencing conflict. And a mental health provider may suggest to you, hey, why don't you work with a parent coordinator that I know? So once professionals have typically introduced parents to this concept of the idea of parent coordination, and the conflict has been identified, then the parent coordinator can either be appointed by way of a consent agreement. Both parents agree, if they're in court or if they're working with family law attorneys, hey, we both agree we want to work with a third party to help us in our areas of conflict. A court could just order that a parent coordinator work with the folks, and they may require each parent to pay a retainer to that parent coordinator so that those fees are paid. And they may require a certain number of sessions before coming back to court. So that's the most formal kind of appointment of a parent coordinator. And then the third is that parents recognize they've got some conflict. They want to work with somebody. They reach out directly to a parent coordinator, and then that person sends them a contract or an agreement, and both parents sign that agreement. Either way, as opposed to mediation, the parent coordination process is not voluntary, meaning the parents are either agreeing, hey, we are committing to working with this parent coordinator, and neither one of us can unilaterally get out of this contract, or the court is requiring the parents to meet with that parent coordinator. So that's the way in which parent coordination is typically introduced to folks. So the next step is, what exactly is it that folks are working with a parent coordinator on? It completely depends on you and your co-parent and your conflict. And so when you meet with your parent coordinator, typically you have an onboarding session. When folks come to me, I have a 1-hour onboarding session, and I talk to them about who I am, what my process is, what to expect, administrative stuff as well, my billing practices, how they'll be invoiced, how they'll make payment. All of those things are covered in that initial session. But also, I try and identify with the folks, hey, what are the main issues that you guys are facing together? And so I'll ask each parent, for example, if I were to identify 3 things that you would like to resolve with your co-parent, what would those 3 topics be? And I leave it fairly broad because parents sometimes have very big things such as, I want to get out of this fight. I want to get out of this court case. Or they may say, the pickup times at 5 p.m. on Sundays are not working. So I leave it pretty broad when I'm asking parents because they may have conflicts that are wide spread, that are broad, communication, our ability to be nice to each other, or they may have something very specific that's causing them stress. So I typically talk to each parent about what issues are causing them stress. Sometimes we get to work in that onboarding session, depending on if I've been court appointed and I have very limited time. But usually it's just identifying the areas in which this family system needs some support. And then also in that onboarding meeting, you will discover as a team, hey, are there so many agenda items, so many topics that the parents are struggling with that we need to be meeting pretty frequently? Or is there really one issue that they're struggling with and maybe the frequency of the meetings are not as necessary? Maybe the parents only need to meet once a month. Usually expect to be scheduling sessions more frequently when you're beginning with your parent coordinator. Some parent coordinators have you meet with each parent in an individual session first. I like to have both parents come in their onboarding session and I meet them at the same time. In fact, I won't take phone calls from parents when they call my office to schedule. Usually parents that have been in high conflict are very, very concerned and worried that the parent coordinator could be biased, that the parent coordinator will believe the story or the narrative of their co-parent. They're very distrusting. So I find that in order to kind of get an even playing ground, it's really important that I meet both parents at the same time. They both get the same information about who I am, what our process is, and what we're going to be working on. And then after that onboarding session, some folks, we just continue working and we have a scheduled joint session next. But for most folks that have been in intense litigation or that have had a very, very difficult history, I will schedule individual sessions next. That's the next part of the process. So you can anticipate those would be like an hour or so with each parent. And again, you're going to want to talk to your parent coordinator about what their billing practices are. For me, I bill the parents equally unless the court has ordered otherwise. And then for individual sessions, I bill that individual parent. And I usually bill as we go, so the parents keep a credit card on file and I just charge them as the sessions go. So those are typically how you can expect to be working with a parent coordinator. I want to share screen again with respect to the problem-solving parent coordination model. The improvement objectives that you will be working on with your co-parent is, here we'll go to the screen, is tailored to your family and your co-parenting dynamic. So not all folks are the same, although you can't do this work and not see patterns of conflict that happen among families. But it really depends on you and your children and your family. So typically, these are some pretty common areas and objectives for improvement. We have communication protocols. We start off between the parents. One of the most important things that I work with folks on is trying to find out how they communicate. What is their modality of communication? Is it via text message, email, telephone call, in person, a parenting app such as Our Family Wizard? So I find out what ways they're communicating. I also find out whether those are effective. So some parents say, oh, we're fine and there's no problems at all. We communicate via email and we're happy with that. Usually my parents that have text messaging as their main source of communication, they really struggle. or they'll be successful up and until a point, and then they'll have major blow-ups and they won't know why. So we kind of find out, okay, how are we communicating? And then what is the content of the communication? What is the volume? Are folks sending, 100 messages a day? Is one parent never responding and never communicating? So we find out all of those very important details that answer the why the communication is broken down. And then what we try and work on, not necessarily, sometimes we get this addressed very quickly, but for some folks, this is an ongoing issue that we're constantly improving upon. We want to find out what is a system that works best for this family. And what I always share with folks is that communication does not need to be emotional. Communication does not require trust. Communication should be like math. 2 + 2 should always equal 4. So we need to have a protocol in place that both parents can rely upon, that both parents expect is their protocol that they follow, so that we are reducing the stress and the fear and the anxiety that parents have when they communicate with each other. It should be kind of like if you're training a dog, you want to train that dog for particular times of day is when they eat, when they drink their water, when they can expect to go on walks. And dogs that have routines and know what to expect tend to behave better. Well, parents are the same. We're not that much different. If we know that my parent is supposed to respond to me within 48 hours, then we're less stressed about whether they're going to respond or not. If we know that we are supposed to send one email per issue and not one email with 100 paragraphs with 100 issues, then we know what to expect and we are less stressed. So we work out that protocol based on each family. Other issues that parents typically work on in parent coordination, scheduling and calendaring. Some folks have their children have substantial medical issues, and that's a real area of stress. How the medical appointments get scheduled, who the providers are, who communicates with the providers, who attends the meetings, who attends the appointments, how information is shared. Those are all things that parents tend to get in really sticky areas with each other and really struggle with. If your child has an IEP or a 504 plan, communicating with any third parties, teachers, evaluators, or therapists, that is something that parents really need to be on the same page about. And typically parents don't mean to, but they will triangulate these third parties who are there to help their children. They'll triangulate them into their parenting conflict if they have not secured a really solid protocol on how they are going to communicate with third parties and what the expectations are for those communications and scheduling of appointments and meetings. Extracurricular activities can be an area where parents are either fine or they have massive disputes. So we want to help the parents in several categories related to extracurricular activities. How many activities the child is enrolled in, who enrolls the child, who pays for the activities, who takes the child to the activities. If you're divorced or separated, does the child only get to go to a particular activity on mom's time and not on dad's time? Those are all things that we really want to work with the parents on coming up with the best strategies in a non-judgmental form, because parents tend to feel very strongly about these issues and they really connect to their value systems. And then they feel attacked by their co-parent. So they feel very, very frustrated. And it's an area where parents can fight quite a bit. And kids really need their parents to be getting along and supporting them in their activities, not becoming an area of conflict. Parental routines and expectations. This can vary based on the age, stage, and development of your child. Folks that have kids 0 to 4 years old are really going to be working together more stringently to figure out what is the routine for my child. If one parent has a bedtime of 6 p.m. and the other is 9:30 p.m. for a 3-year-old, we have a problem. So we really want to work with solidifying routines and expectations. And in some family systems, It absolutely is impossible to get the parents to do the same thing in each household, and that's okay too. We just have to manage it and figure out what the messaging is between the parents to the children and figure out, hey, do we need a third party, maybe a professional to come in and give us some advice? For example, a pediatrician on what to expect with the routines of medications. And so we're really trying to work together in parent coordination to eliminate the third party provider or the parent coordinator can be objective and can eliminate the emotional response between the parents that often causes the conflict and really just look at what is working and what is not working. And if something is not working, can we brainstorm and try something new for a period of time, see how that goes. If it fails, let's try something new again. So your parent coordinator is not somebody like a mediator that would only meet with you one time to reach one resolution. They're really there on an ongoing long-term basis. That long-term could either be between now and when you have a trial, if you're court appointed, or it could be for a period of even 2 years. Some folks reach agreements where they're going to be working with a parent coordinator as long as they share custody of their children. So the term of the parent coordinator is important because they are your safety net when things go awry. They are the person that can listen to both sides and help the two of you and support the two of you in working together and being the best version of yourselves in co-parenting. So if you are inclined to work with a parent coordinator instead of fighting and battling it out in court, I highly suggest you can go to my website, burroughshavilandlaw.com, and look at our parent coordination page. But I highly suggest that you also look at the parent coordination list. Most courts in most jurisdictions will maintain a list of current mediators and parent coordinators. If your court does not have a list of parent coordinators who are active in that community, then certainly you can reach out to me. But also another good resource is the AFCC website, which is the Association of Family Conciliation Courts. That organization is a fantastic organization and a place to start where you can find parent coordinators in your jurisdiction throughout the country. So I hope this has been a helpful intro to parent coordination. I'll continue to upload videos and tutorials for parents and for family lawyers. Many family lawyers have never utilized or recommended parent coordinators. Maybe you don't have many in your jurisdiction. And so if this is something new to you, then you certainly can click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and learn more about parent coordination and how it can help your clients. All right. Be well, everybody. We'll see you soon.